Hello everyone. We are back with another video for economics. In this video, we'll be talking about national income. This is an important chapter for class 12th macroeconomics. So, before we begin with the chapter, let's find out the topics or the contents we'll be learning. We'll be learning about the basic concepts of national income, the circular flow of income under two-sector model, the aggregates of national income, and the methods of measuring national income. So let's begin. Now, what is national income? Before we learn about that, we need to learn the basic concept of macroeconomics. So, as we know that our economy is divided into four sectors. The first is the household sector, which consists of the consumers. Their job is to do the consumption of the goods and services produced in the economy. The second sector talks about the business sector. These are the manufacturers or sellers, and their job is producing goods and services. The third is the government sector. They control and frame policies for the entire economy. And finally, the fourth sector is the foreign sector, in which we talk about imports and exports. So basically, macroeconomics is a branch of economics which deals and studies the behavior and performance of an economy as a whole. Now let us understand what is national income. It is defined as the monetary or money value of all final goods and services which is produced by the normal residents of a country in a particular year. So it is basically an aggregate of factor income which is supplied by normal residents of a country. Now we know this fact that there are four basic factors of production. They are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Now these four factors of production generate factor income. So on land we get rent. To the laborers, the wages and salaries are being paid. The capital earns the interest, and the entrepreneur gets the profit. So there are basically four factors of production, and these four factors of production generate four factor income. So in the above definition, where it is written that it is basically an aggregate of factor income, this is what factor income is. So national income, in simpler sense, we can say that when we sum up all these four factor income, this is what it is known as national income. Now moving on, final goods and services and normal residents. These are the two key words in the definition of national income for which you need to understand the basic concept about them. Let's proceed. So, talking about final goods and services, these are basically either used for final consumption by the end users, or these are meant for investment. Final goods are basically are of two types. The first is the consumer goods and services, which is purchased by the household sector. That is the consumer's one. Example, milk, butter, car, or anything which you can name off. Second type of final good is the capital goods. Now these goods are used by the producers, that is the business sector, the second sector of the economy, as their job is to produce goods and services. And these goods helps in generating income for the business by making an investment into them. So when you purchase a machine or a building, when a seller purchases machines, buildings, or land, or plant, then it simply said that it is actually making an investment, and therefore they help in generating income, because through these goods we are going to produce the goods and services. A very important aspect of national income which is to be noted here is that it includes only final goods and services, and the value of intermediate goods are not included. Now, to know what are intermediate goods, in simpler sense, we can say that these are those goods and services which are used as a raw material for further production or for resale purpose in the very same year. That means they are being exhausted in the same year. Okay. Now, other concepts of national income, talking about normal residents. Now, normal resident is basically a person or it can be any institution who normally resides in a country, that is, lives in a country, and the economic interest also lies in that country. So he may or may not be a citizen of country in which he resides. Now, there are basically two conditions which are meant to be fulfilled to be known as a normal resident. So the first condition is that that individual or a person or an institution should have an economic interest. That means economic interest means that he is earning a living by providing his factor services in that country. And the second condition says that he should be living in that particular country for 1 year or more than 1 year. So if these two conditions are being fulfilled, these people or institution is known as normal residents of that country in which they are living. So for example, if a Japanese tourist comes to India for traveling and he lives here for 2 months, right, so he will not be a normal resident of India. Why? Because neither of the two conditions are being fulfilled. First, he does not have an economic interest, he just came here for traveling. The other condition which says that he should be living here for 1 year or more than 1 year, but since he's living for 2 months, therefore both of the two conditions are not being fulfilled, so therefore he will not be known as a normal resident. Coming to the next concept, the domestic territory. Now, this concept particularly has a wider sense and a wider scope. Unlike the in literal meaning, when we talk about geographical boundaries, that is not that what in national income means. So in domestic territory or the economic territory of a country includes certain things, which are: number one, all the political territory including territorial waters. Second, any embassies, immigration offices, research centers, and any military establishments of a country which is located outside the political or geographical boundary of a country will be a part of domestic territory of that country. Third, oil rigs, fishing vessels, that means the ships, owned by a country but it is operating on an international water body, still it will be a part of that country. Fourth, the aircrafts, that is, the airplanes and ships which are owned by the residents of a country but they are operating in any other foreign country, but still they will be a part of domestic territory of this country. So, in nutshell, we need to say that whatever the assets which are being owned by, let's say, India, but they are outside the geographical boundary of India, but they still be considered a part of domestic territory of India, right? So let's say if Singapore Airlines is uh, uh, you know is on Delhi airport. So since Singapore Airlines belongs to Singapore, so therefore, irrespective of the matter of fact whether it is in India or Singapore or any other country, they will be a part of domestic territory of Singapore. Or another example, I can say that let's say a Japanese embassy is in India, right? But since it is an embassy of Japan, so it will be a domestic territory of Japan and not India. In the same way, in an Indian embassy in Japan will be a part of the domestic territory of India and not Japan. So offices of any international organizations like WHO, UNESCO, World Bank, and embassies of foreign countries do not form a part of our domestic territory, even if they are located within the geographical or political boundary of our country. Moving on, the next concept is about the stock and flow. A very basic and fine difference between these two should be known, and these are: the stock is basically is a quantity which is measured at a particular point of time, while flow is a quantity measured at a specific period of time. There's a difference. Point of time is stock, period of time is flow. Stock do not have any time dimension, but flow does have a time dimension. Examples of a stock can be wealth, capital, but the examples of flow are income, interest on capital, because these are of recurring nature. That means it's on a regular basis, right? The next concept we'll talk about the factor income and transfer income. Now, very important aspect about this, since in the earlier slide I told you about the factor income like rent, wages and salaries, interest and profit. So the factor income basically refers to the income which is earned by the factors of production like land, labor, capital and entrepreneur for providing or rendering their services in the production process. right? And therefore they do form a part of national income. That means, just like I told you the definition, national income in simpler sense is the aggregate of all factors income. On the other hand, transfer income is just the opposite of factor income. Here, this is such income which a person gets, but he does not provide any service. So, which is received without providing any productive service in return, such incomes are known as transfer income. And therefore, since they are unilateral in nature, they are not a part of national income. The example can be old age pension, scholarships, unemployment allowances, and pocket money. Since they do not add to any flow of goods and services, therefore, transfer income are not included in national income. The next concept is about the investment. Now, investment in simpler sense means that when we add any value to the physical stock of capital during a financial year of a country, it is known as investment. On simpler terms, we can say that investment means the capital formation in economy. So therefore, they are categorized into two forms. The first investment is known as the gross investment. Simpler tense, simpler sense, it means total addition which is made to the physical stock of the capital. It includes gross investment includes depreciation, while the other category of investment is the net investment, which is the actual addition which is made to the physical stock of capital after deducting depreciation. Lastly, the factor cost and market price. Now, the factor cost basically refers to the cost of factors of production. That means when you purchase a land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So, when a seller makes the payment for the purchasing of all these factors of production, it is known as factor cost. And market price simply says that is the final price or the monetary price at which the produced final goods and services are being sold in the market for final consumption. So this is the end of the first part of national income. We'll continue the second part of national income the next video. Thank you for watching.